Welcome to Barnstable Today. I'm Nick Cortez.
And I'm Kevin Friel. We'd like to remind you right at the top that the meetings we cover are available on demand at the town's website. You can log on at www.town.barnstable.ma.us.
Shock waves have been rippling across Cape Cod ever since noon on Wednesday when U.S. Interior Secretary Ken Salazar announced his approval of the Cape Wind project. And over the past 48 hours, some of those shock waves have been brought to our Barnstable This Morning airwaves as officials from a variety of public and private entities reacted to the decision.
Today we're revisiting those perspectives, beginning with thoughts from Steamship Authority Marketing Director Kimberly McHugh and Airport Manager Bud Brielt. They spoke with us on our Business Wednesday episode.
For us, we're not in favor of that Cape Wind project because it will dramatically affect our operations. And what that will do in turn is raise rates, and we don't want to do that.
Okay, well, that's certainly a fair answer, and I'll certainly be checking in with other business owners and folks like that throughout the course of the day today to kind of take the pulse of our local business community.
Yes.
That being said, you said that it would raise the Cape Wind decision might raise rates. Why? Why is that?
Well, because of the cost that it would incur upon our operations. If they do put the Cape Wind out in the Sound, we will have to change our routes and the way we operate every day. As you know, we operate 24, year-round with frequent daily departures.
Oh, sure.
Everything would have to change. That would mean maybe a longer route, possibly more fuel costs, possibly more, staff time. All those things add up. Right now we've got it down to a science and it's working out well. But with change comes cost.
I'm not sure that it would affect the business at the airport, but it would certainly affect flight operations in the region because of the height of the towers and the sheer number of them, and that could dramatically affect via visual flight rules type flights between the mainland and the islands. And could cause certain planes to have to fly around the area, so which would increase, their time to travel, and it also, I think, would increase the hazards to VFR and IFR flight in the region.
Sure. So, would you characterize this as an inconvenience, a potential serious problem? Can it range depending on the day? What would you say?
I'd say all of those. It would be an inconvenience, and it's a flight hazard, and the FAA has still not made a determination as to the degree of that flight hazard. And they came out with a ruling not too long ago on that. So it's still under study, and I don't think a decision is supposed to be coming from the FAA for another month or so. So we think the decision by Secretary Salazar may be a little bit premature.
On today's edition of BTM, we heard more reaction to the Cape Wind decision from Barnstable Town Council President Fred Chirigotis, Assistant Town Manager and County Assembly of Delegates Representative Tom Lynch, and Three Bays Preservation Executive Director Lindsay Council.
We've never seen an emergency response plan. So emergency response will be a critical, real issue for that area. What do you do in the event of an injury at the work site? Who responds? Who's responsible? Who pays for it? We can get all kinds of myths, but the reality of it is the local towns are the first responders. They're the closest people. But we don't have the resources. We don't have the boats. We don't have, or the money to get out there and do all that. That's one thing. What do you do in the event of a disaster? Any type of a ship, plane, or oil spill or anything of that nature in that area, any type of an industrial accident, who responds to that? And again, it's the towns who are responsible, but there's no money, there's no funding, there's no plan, and we don't have the facilities to do it. So we're at risk of getting the brunt of anything bad that happens, while at the same time we're stymied because number one, there is no plan, and number two, we don't have the ability to respond. So, those are real issues that really should have been addressed a long time ago.
thing I found very interesting and somewhat confusing about the county government's role in the whole Cape Wind permitting process was the fact that the turbines themselves, where they're located, are in federal waters, and technically speaking, the Cape Cod Commission has no jurisdiction over what happens in federal waters. The question I believe that they were dealing with dealt with the undersea cables that were going to come up onto land and be placed in Barnstable County, and it's my impression that they ended up getting usurped because that component of the project, taken out of context and individually, really didn't have any serious negative impacts. And the argument that was being made was that it's all interconnected, but the counter argument was, well, it's not your business to decide what's interconnected and what's not. It's your business to decide what's in your jurisdiction.
Well, I think you framed that well, and the Energy Facility Siting Board at the state level, when it took its action, really just said, look, our statute overrides yours. You know, we're going to come in and trump that. And the SJC suit, which is now, pending, that, what the public trust and the rights that will happen in the tidal lands, and basically the impact that will happen because of a federal project into state waters and into town lands is part of what's a big part of that suit. Mm-hmm. We're very concerned, as you may have heard earlier, about the impact of any sort of, oil spill or any sort of impact onto our, tourism, interests. And we think those should be components that should be looked at and interrelated. And I thought the Commission did a good job of, presenting its case that way. But they were largely ignored by Cape Wind because I think Cape Wind knew that they were going to go to the Energy Facility Siting Board, overrule the local folks, and that was the end of that. So then that's kind of the way it's played out.
I'm interested specifically, Lindsay, in your thoughts on Cape Wind's potential impact on endangered bird species. There's many arguments against this project, as you well know. But, of course, Three Bays runs a bird sanctuary on Dead Neck Island for a number of species that could indeed stand to be taken by wind turbine blades. I'm wondering how you feel about the likelihood of that actually happening, and any other thoughts that might be associated with that particular aspect of this situation.
Well, as you know, Nantucket Sound is ringed by bird sanctuaries. There's 22 areas where nesting shorebirds use the sound and the associated area. But what we've learned through the Cape Wind process is really there's a huge lack of information on how these areas interact and the relationship between Dead Neck, for example, and Calmus Beach and some of the areas on the islands, and how the birds move back and forth, and when they're unsuccessful nesting on Dead Neck, for example, where do they go? So what we've learned in reviewing the material that was produced is that we don't really know how these things interact. One point I'd point out is the recent study released by Mass Audubon that showed that roseate terns return to the Cape Cod area, particularly Nantucket Sound, to feed before they migrate south, coming from as far away as Long Island and Maine. This was unknown until very, very recently. So I don't think that the work done to prepare the permits for Cape Wind were sufficient to really understand what's going on out there because the Cape and Nantucket Sound is such a unique place.
Despite the federal approval of Cape Wind, the final word will be in the hands of the courts, as a number of our guests told us that their organizations are or plan to be involved in lawsuits against Cape Wind Associates and/or the federal government.
All board and committee meetings are done for the week, so that'll do it for us. For Kevin Friel, I'm Nick Cortese. We'll see you next time on Barnstable Today.